I speak to you today not just as a king, but as a seeker, a searcher of truth. My name is Solomon, son of David, and I have reigned over Israel from the heart of Jerusalem. You see, the world knows me for my riches, my palaces, the vast gardens I've cultivated, and the gold that overflows my treasuries. I have tasted every pleasure, achieved every ambition a man could dream of. And yet, in the quiet moments, when the applause of the crowds fades, and I am left alone with my thoughts, a single, persistent question haunts me: what is the meaning of it all? From the throne, I looked out upon the works of my hands, the empire I had built, the wisdom I had amassed. The world called me wise, and indeed I dedicated myself to understanding everything under the sun. I sought to unravel the mysteries of life, the patterns of human behavior, the very fabric of existence. I pursued knowledge with a relentless passion, believing that in its depths I would find the ultimate satisfaction, the lasting peace my soul craved. The preacher in me cries out, "Vanity of vanities, all is vanity." This isn't a cry of despair, but a profound realization. Imagine chasing the wind. You can feel it, you can see its effects, but you can never grasp it, never hold it in your hand. So it is with so much of our earthly toil. We build, we gather, we strive, and for what? The sun rises, the sun sets, and generations come and go. The river flows to the sea, yet the sea is never full. There is a cycle, a repetition to life under the sun that can feel empty, meaningless. I applied my heart to this great search. I observed the wise and the foolish, the righteous and the wicked. I saw that the same fate befalls them all. I saw the oppression under the sun, and the tears of the oppressed with no one to comfort them. The more I learned, the more I understood, the heavier my heart became. It was a shocking discovery. In much wisdom, there is much grief. To increase knowledge is to increase sorrow. Why? Because with knowledge comes a clearer vision of the world's brokenness. You see the injustices more sharply, you feel the fleeting nature of joy more acutely, and you understand the limits of human power more profoundly. I, the king with all my resources, could not fix every wrong, heal every hurt, or answer every question. This realization was a vexation to my spirit, a deep-seated frustration. My wisdom, which I thought would be my liberator, had in many ways become a burden. I even tested my heart with pleasure. I said to myself, "Come now, I will test you with mirth, therefore enjoy pleasure." I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. I undertook great projects, built houses, planted vineyards, made gardens and parks. I gathered silver and gold, the treasure of kings. I had singers and every delight of the sons of men. I became great, surpassing all who were before me in Jerusalem. My wisdom remained with me, and I saw it all through that lens. And what was the conclusion? When I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I had labored to do, behold, all was vanity and a striving after wind. There was no real, lasting profit under the sun. The laughter in the halls felt hollow. The finest wines could not quench the thirst of my soul, and the accumulation of wealth brought with it the anxiety of losing it. The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. Yet I perceived that one event happens to them all. So I said in my heart, "As it happens to the fool, so it will happen to me. Why then have I been more wise?" And I concluded that this also is vanity. This journey through wisdom, pleasure, and toil led me not to a dead end, but to a doorway. It forced me to look beyond the horizon of this world, beyond what is under the sun. If everything within this earthly frame is fleeting and unable to provide ultimate meaning, then meaning must come from beyond it. And that is where the true discovery lies. The wearisome search, the sorrow of knowledge, it all serves a purpose. It empties us of our self-reliance. It makes us lift our eyes from the dust of our own efforts and look upward, It was in this state, stripped of my pride in my own intellect, that I understood the simple foundational truth my father David taught me. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. It's not the end of knowledge, but the starting point. All my searching for wisdom without this foundation was like building a magnificent house on sand. The fear of the Lord is not a cowering terror. It is a profound reverent awe and respect for the Creator of all things. It's an understanding that we are not the center of the universe, that there is a divine author, a grand design that transcends our limited comprehension. This is the key that unlocks everything. When you begin with God, the pursuit of knowledge is no longer a source of sorrow, but a journey of discovering His handiwork. Work is no longer a meaningless toil, but an opportunity to serve a higher purpose. Pleasures are no longer empty distractions, but gifts to be received with gratitude from the giver. Life is no longer a chaotic series of random events, but a story being written by a loving, sovereign hand. The pain and injustice we see no longer lead to despair, because we trust that the ultimate judge is righteous and will one day make all things right. So, what is the conclusion of the whole matter? After all my searching, after all my experiences, this is the ultimate wisdom I can offer. Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. It is in this relationship of reverence and obedience that we find our purpose, our meaning, and our peace. The vanities of the world lose their power over us when our hearts are anchored in the eternal. Don't misunderstand my words. I'm not saying to abandon work or learning or enjoying the simple gifts of life. On the contrary, the preacher also says there is nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This is from the hand of God. The difference is the why. When we do these things with a heart of gratitude and reverence for our Creator, they are no longer empty. They are filled with divine purpose. So I urge you, do not repeat my folly of seeking meaning in the things of this world alone. They will always leave you empty-handed, chasing the wind. Instead, start with the foundation. Begin with awe and reverence for the one who made you, who holds the universe in His hands. In Him, you will find a wisdom that does not lead to sorrow, but to life. You will find a joy that is not fleeting, but eternal. And you will find that your life, far from being vanity, is a beautiful and meaningful part of His grand divine story. Have you ever chased after something thinking, if I just get this one thing, I'll finally be happy? Maybe it was a promotion, a new car, a bigger house, or just the approval of others. You work for it, you strive for it, and maybe you even get it. But then, after the initial excitement fades, you find yourself right back where you started, with that same familiar feeling of emptiness. It's a universal human experience. This feeling that no matter how much we accumulate or achieve, something is still missing. It's like trying to fill a bucket that has a hole in the bottom. Thousands of years ago, one of the wisest and wealthiest men who ever lived, King Solomon, conducted a massive experiment. He documented his findings in the Book of Ecclesiastes. He had it all: immense wealth, unparalleled wisdom, power, and access to any pleasure imaginable. He decided to test pleasure to its absolute limits. He said to himself, "Come now, I will test you with pleasure. Enjoy yourself." And he did. He threw lavish parties, drank the finest wines, and surrounded himself with entertainment. He denied himself nothing his eyes desired. Solomon didn't just stop at parties and feasting. He became the greatest builder of his time. He constructed magnificent houses for himself, designed sprawling gardens and beautiful parks, and planted all kinds of fruit trees. He engineered complex irrigation systems, creating lush oases in the middle of the desert. Imagine the sense of accomplishment, looking out over a landscape that you yourself brought to life. He wasn't just consuming, he was creating, building a legacy of stone and soil. His wealth was legendary. The Bible tells us he gathered silver and gold like they were common stones. He had treasures that other kings could only dream of, and the resources of entire provinces were at his command. He had the best of everything, the best art, the best music, the best food. He had a huge staff to manage his vast estates. By any worldly standard, he was the most successful person on the planet. He had reached the absolute pinnacle of human achievement and pleasure. So after all this, was he finally happy? Was he fulfilled? Here's his shocking conclusion. After looking at everything he had done, all the works his hands had accomplished, he said, "Behold, all was vanity and a striving after wind." Think about that phrase. Striving after wind. Have you ever tried to catch the wind in your hands? It's impossible. It's a frustrating, empty pursuit. That's how Solomon described his life of chasing pleasure and accomplishment. It was all meaningless, like a puff of smoke. This is a powerful lesson for us today. We live in a culture that constantly tells us to chase more. More money, more followers, more experiences, more stuff. We're bombarded with images of people who seem to have it all, and we're told that if we just follow their path, we'll find happiness too. But Solomon's experiment proves that this is a dead end. Even the highest highs of worldly pleasure ultimately lead to a feeling of emptiness and dissatisfaction. The Book of Proverbs puts it this way: "Even in laughter, the heart may ache, and the end of joy may be grief." Have you ever been at a party surrounded by people, laughing and having a good time on the outside, but feeling completely lonely and sad on the inside? That's exactly what this verse is talking about. Surface-level happiness, the kind that comes from external things, can't touch the deep-seated needs of our hearts. It's a temporary distraction, a mask that we wear, but sooner or later the mask comes off, and we're left with the reality of our inner state. The party ends, the guests go home, and the silence that follows can be deafening. The joy was fleeting, and what's left behind is a sense of heaviness. Why is this? Why are these worldly pursuits so ultimately unfulfilling? The New Testament gives us a crucial piece of the puzzle. The book of James asks a very direct question: what is your life? The answer is just as direct. You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Our time on this earth is incredibly short and fragile. We make all these plans for the future, for 5 years from now, 10 years from now, for retirement. We act as if we have all the time in the world. But the reality is, none of us is guaranteed tomorrow. Thinking about life as a vapor or a mist really changes your perspective, doesn't it? It's not meant to be depressing, but realistic. It helps us reevaluate our priorities. If our life is this short, does it really make sense to spend it all chasing things that Solomon himself called a striving after wind? Does it make sense to invest everything into building a kingdom of stuff that will ultimately fade away just like we will? It's a sobering thought, but it's a necessary one. It forces us to ask the most important question of all. If life is short and worldly, pleasures don't satisfy, then what is the point? This feeling of vanity, this sense of meaninglessness that Solomon described, is actually a signpost. It's our hearts telling us that we were made for more than just what this world has to offer. The great writer C.S. Lewis said, "If I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world." That emptiness you feel after the party is over, that ache in your heart even when you're laughing, is a longing for something eternal. It's a God-shaped hole in our hearts that we try to fill with everything but God himself. Solomon, after his long and exhaustive search for meaning in every corner of the world, finally came to his ultimate conclusion at the end of the book. He wrote, "The end of the matter. All has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. After trying everything else, he realized that true, lasting fulfillment is found not in pursuing our own pleasure, but in a relationship with our Creator. It's about recognizing that we are not the center of the universe, that our lives have a purpose given to us by the one who made us. This isn't about rejecting enjoyment or living a bland life. God gave us good things to enjoy. The difference is the source of our ultimate joy and identity. When our foundation is our relationship with God, we can enjoy the blessings of life without being crushed when they are gone. Our joy is no longer dependent on our circumstances, our possessions, or our achievements. It's anchored in something unchanging, something eternal. The fleeting mist of our life finds its meaning when it reflects the glory of the eternal sun. So, the next time you feel that sense of emptiness, that feeling of striving after the wind, don't just try to find a new distraction. Pause and consider that maybe it's your heart calling you to look up. Maybe it's an invitation to stop trying to fill that void with things that will never satisfy and to turn to the only one who can. The journey of Solomon teaches us that you can gain the whole world and still lose your soul. But finding your purpose in God is a treasure that lasts forever, no matter where we are in life. Time. It's this constant flowing river that carries us from birth to death, through seasons of joy and seasons of sorrow. We often feel like we're just trying to keep our heads above water, don't we? Rushing from one task to the next, always feeling like we're running out of time. But what if we're looking at it all wrong? The Book of Ecclesiastes offers a profound perspective. It tells us, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Think about that for a moment. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot what was planted. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. This isn't about passive resignation, just letting things happen to us. It's about recognizing the rhythm of life. It's an invitation to be fully present in whatever season we find ourselves. When it's a time for planting, starting a new project, a new relationship, or a new habit, we should pour our energy into it, nurturing it with care and hope. We don't try to harvest the very next day. We trust the process. Conversely, when it's a time to uproot, to let go of something that no longer serves us, a job, a belief, or even a dream that has run its course, we must do so with courage. It can be painful, like pulling up something we've tended for a long time, but holding on when it's time to release only leads to stagnation and bitterness. There is wisdom in knowing when to let go. Life presents us with seasons of weeping and mourning. Loss is an unavoidable part of the human experience. Ecclesiastes gives us permission to grieve. It validates our sorrow, telling us that there is a designated time for it. We don't have to just get over it. We can and should allow ourselves to feel the depth of our pain. It's in these valleys that our roots often grow the deepest. But notice, it also says there is a time to laugh and a time to dance. The season of sorrow is not meant to be our permanent address. Joy will return. Laughter will bubble up again. The dance will resume. This divine rhythm promises that winter will eventually give way to spring. We see this pattern all around us in nature. A tree doesn't fret in winter when its leaves are gone. It rests, gathering strength for the spring bloom. It trusts the season. Why do we find it so hard to do the same? We often fight the season we're in. In our youth, we can't wait to be older. When we're older, we long for our youth. In times of quiet, we crave excitement. In times of chaos, we yearn for peace. We are constantly at odds with the now. The writer of Ecclesiastes goes on to say that God has made everything beautiful in its time. Even the difficult seasons have a purpose and a form of beauty, though we may only see it in hindsight. The strength we gain from overcoming a challenge, the compassion we develop through suffering, the clarity that comes after a period of confusion, these are the beautiful things born from difficult times. He has also set eternity in the human heart. This is fascinating. It means we have this innate, deep-seated longing for something more, something permanent, something beyond the temporary cycles of life and death, joy and pain. It's why we're never fully satisfied with the things of this world. We have a homing signal in our souls, pointing us toward the eternal. This brings us to another powerful piece of wisdom from the Psalms. Psalm 90 verse 12 is a prayer. So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. What does it mean to number our days? It's not about obsessing over how much time we have left. It's about living with the awareness that our time is finite. It's about realizing that each day is a gift, an unrepeatable opportunity. When you truly grasp that your days are numbered, your priorities begin to shift. The small irritations lose their power. The fear of what others think starts to fade. You stop postponing joy. You start focusing on what truly matters. It's a call to live intentionally, not accidentally. It is asking God to give us the perspective to see our lives not as an endless expanse, but as a precious, limited resource. So how do we apply our hearts to wisdom? It starts by embracing the season you are in. Are you in a season of planting? Then plant with all your heart. Are you in a season of waiting? Then wait with patience and trust. Are you in a season of grieving? Then grieve with honesty, knowing that joy will come again. Don't waste today wishing it were yesterday or worrying about tomorrow. Be fully present right here, right now. Applying our hearts to wisdom also means investing our time in things of eternal value, building relationships, showing kindness, growing in our faith, sharing hope with others. These are the things that last. The writer of Ecclesiastes concludes that even though we can't fully grasp God's grand plan from beginning to end, our purpose is to find joy in our work and to do good as long as we live. So let's take a moment today to reflect. What season are you in? Are you embracing it, or are you fighting it? And how can you number your days better starting today? Maybe it means putting your phone down and being present with your family. Maybe it means starting that project you've been putting off. Maybe it means forgiving someone. Or maybe it just means taking a deep breath and being thankful for the simple gift of being alive. Let's learn to live in harmony with the divine rhythm of life, trusting that every season has its purpose and its beauty. Let's ask for the wisdom to number our days, not with fear, but with a renewed passion for living each one to the fullest, for a purpose greater than ourselves. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this brought you some encouragement and a fresh perspective. If it did, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more content like this. Have you ever looked around at the world and just felt a deep sense of unfairness? You turn on the news, you scroll through your feed, and you see stories of people hurting. You see the tears of the oppressed, and it feels like no one is there to comfort them. It's a heavy feeling, isn't it? The ancient writer of Ecclesiastes felt it too. He wrote, "I turned and saw the tears of the oppressed, and they had no comforter. Power was on the side of their oppressors." It's a heart-wrenching observation that feels just as true today as it did thousands of years ago. It can make you feel powerless, small, and maybe even a little bit hopeless. When you see injustice, when you see power being misused, and people are left alone in their suffering, it's natural to ask, where is the comfort? Where is the justice? The writer of Ecclesiastes looked at this, and he saw something else too. He saw the driving force behind so much of the world's activity. He observed that a lot of our work, our ambition, our striving, comes from a place of rivalry, of wanting to keep up with our neighbor. We see what someone else has, and suddenly what we have doesn't feel like enough. We start chasing, striving, and working ourselves to the bone. And for what? The writer calls this chasing after the wind. Think about that image. Have you ever tried to catch the wind in your hands? It's impossible, it's exhausting. You end up with nothing but empty, tired hands. He describes a person who works and works, completely alone. They have no one to share their success with, no one to lift them up if they fall. They accumulate wealth, but they never stop to ask themselves, for whom am I toiling and why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? It's a powerful question we should all ask ourselves. In our quest for more, for success, for security, are we sacrificing our peace? Are we sacrificing our relationships? Are we becoming that person alone with two full hands but an empty heart? This is where the wisdom of the scriptures offers a beautiful and radical alternative. It says, "Better is a handful with quietness than both hands full with toil and chasing after the wind." Let that sink in. A handful with quietness. It's not about having nothing. It's about having enough. It's about contentment. It's about finding peace in what you have, rather than constant anxiety over what you don't. It's the radical idea that maybe, just maybe, peace of mind is more valuable than a bigger bank account. Quietness of the soul is worth more than a life of frantic, endless labor. This doesn't mean we shouldn't work hard or have goals. Ambition isn't inherently bad, but it's about the why behind our work. Are we working from a place of fear, of envy, of trying to prove ourselves? Or are we working from a place of purpose, of service, of building a life that has room for peace, for joy, and for other people? When we choose the handful with quietness, something amazing happens. Our perspective shifts. Our hands, which were clenched tight trying to hold on to everything, begin to open. And this brings us to that other piece of wisdom from Proverbs. He that giveth unto the poor shall not lack. At first, this might seem contradictory. How can giving away what you have lead to not lacking? But it's not about a magical formula where if you give $10, you get 20 back. It's about a fundamental shift in our worldview, from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance and trust. When we live in that two-hands-full mode of chasing the wind, we're operating from fear. We're afraid there won't be enough, so we have to grab and hold and accumulate everything we can. Our world becomes very small, centered entirely on ourselves and our own survival and success. But when we start to believe that a handful with quietness is enough, we realize we have something to spare. We can open our hands and share. We can become the comforter that the oppressed so desperately need. Remember the start of our conversation, the tears of the oppressed who had no comforter. When we are not consumed by our own endless toil, we can finally see those tears. We can see the person next to us who is struggling. And when we give, whether it's our time, our resources, a listening ear, or a word of encouragement, we are pushing back against the injustice and loneliness of the world. We become the hands and feet of comfort. We become the answer to that cry for help. The promise that he that giveth shall not lack is a deep spiritual truth. It means you won't lack purpose. You won't lack connection. You won't lack joy. You won't lack the profound satisfaction that comes from making a difference in someone else's life. By giving, you step into a flow of generosity and grace. You realize that the source of your security isn't in what you can hold in your hands, but in something much greater. This is how we combat the futility of chasing the wind. We stop, we breathe, we look at our own handful and declare it enough. We find quietness for our souls. And from that place of peace and contentment, we look around and see who we can help. We open our hands not to grasp, but to give. This is the path away from the lonely toil and the endless rivalry. It's the path to a life of meaning. It's how we move from being observers of the world's pain to being agents of comfort and hope. So, I encourage you today to take a moment and look at your own life. Are you chasing the wind with two hands full of toil? Or are you cultivating a life with a handful of quietness? Is there a way you can open your hand today to comfort someone who is hurting? It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. A small act of kindness, a donation to a cause you believe in, a phone call to a friend who is struggling. That is how we stop chasing the wind and start changing the world, one handful, one act of comfort at a time. It's a more peaceful, more connected, and ultimately a more fulfilling way to live. Have you ever walked into a place and immediately felt a sense of awe? Maybe it was a grand cathedral, a stunning mountain peak, or the quiet halls of a library. There's a feeling that you should lower your voice, tread a little softer, and just listen. The Book of Ecclesiastes gives us similar advice when we approach God. It says, "Guard your steps when you go to the house of God." Go near to listen rather than to offer the sacrifice of fools who do not know that they do wrong. This is such a powerful image, isn't it? Guard your steps. It's a call to be intentional, to be mindful. When we come before God, whether it's in a church building, in nature, or in the quiet of our own room, we are entering a sacred space. The writer isn't just talking about a physical building. The house of God is any place where we seek His presence. And the first thing we're told to do is to go near to listen. Think about that. In our busy, noisy lives, how often do we truly just go near to listen? We're so used to talking, to asking, to making our requests known. We come to God with our lists of needs, our worries, our plans. And while He absolutely wants to hear all of that, this verse gently reminds us that the primary posture of our hearts should be one of listening. We're encouraged to be more ready to hear than to offer the sacrifice of fools. What is the sacrifice of fools? The verse explains they do not know that they do wrong. No. A fool, in this context, is someone who rushes in with a lot of noise and empty promises, thinking their many words or grand gestures will impress God. They're more focused on their own performance than on God's presence. They talk at God, but they don't stop to listen for Him. It's like having a conversation with someone where you do all the talking and never let them get a word in. You might leave feeling like you said a lot, but you didn't learn anything. You didn't build a real connection. So, how can we cultivate this heart of listening? It starts with humility. The next verse in Ecclesiastes says, "Do not be quick with your mouth. Do not be hasty in your heart to utter anything before God. God is in heaven and you are on earth. So let your words be few." This isn't telling us to be silent or that God doesn't want to hear from us. It's about recognizing the vast difference between God's wisdom and our own limited understanding. He is the creator of the universe. We are His creation. God is in heaven and you are on earth. This simple statement puts everything into perspective. It invites us to pause before we speak. It encourages us to think, what does God already know about this situation? What might He want to teach me in this moment? Sometimes, the most profound prayer isn't a long speech, but a moment of quiet reverence, simply saying, "God, I'm here. I'm listening. Speak, for your servant is listening." When we let our words be few, it creates space. It creates space for the Holy Spirit to speak to our hearts, to bring comfort, to give guidance, to reveal truth. It shifts our focus from our own performance to His magnificent presence. Instead of trying to impress God with our eloquence, we open ourselves up to be transformed by His. It's an act of trust, believing that His wisdom is far greater than anything we could come up with on our own. And this attitude of reverence isn't just for when we are in a designated holy place. The Book of Proverbs gives us a startling and comforting reminder. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, keeping watch on the evil and the good. Every place, not just in church, not just during your prayer time, every single moment of every single day. Let that sink in. The same God who is in heaven is also right here with us on earth. His eyes are everywhere. This isn't meant to be a scary, big brother is watching kind of idea. For those who are trying to follow him, it's a profound comfort. It means you are never alone. When you are doing good, when you are choosing kindness, when you are serving others in secret, he sees you. Your efforts are not in vain. He is there, keeping watch, acknowledging your faithfulness. And when you stumble, when you're tempted, when you're facing evil, he sees that too. He's there not to condemn you, but to offer a way out, to offer strength, to offer grace. His presence is a constant source of protection and guidance. Knowing that his eyes are always on us can be a powerful motivator to live lives that honor him. It helps us guard our steps not just when we go to church, but when we go to work, to the grocery store, or interact with our families. Every place becomes the house of God, because he is present in every place. This understanding transforms our entire lives into an act of worship. Our conversations, our work, our rest, it can all be done with an awareness of his loving gaze. It brings a new level of integrity and purpose to everything we do. We're no longer just going through the motions. We are living before an audience of one. So how do we put all of this together? First, we cultivate a habit of listening. Before you launch into your prayer requests, take a moment of silence. Read a passage of scripture and just sit with it, asking God what he wants to show you through it. Let your words be few, but let your heart be open and attentive. Second, we embrace humility. Acknowledge that God is in heaven and we are on earth. We don't have all the answers, and that's okay. We can trust his sovereign plan and his infinite wisdom, even when we don't understand it. This humility frees us from the pressure of having to have it all figured out. And third, we live with a constant awareness of his presence. Remember that the eyes of the Lord are in every place. Let this truth bring you comfort in your loneliness, strength in your struggles, and joy in your obedience. Let it inspire you to live a life of integrity, knowing that the one who matters most is always watching, not with a critical eye, but with the loving gaze of a father watching over his children. When we approach God this way, with careful steps, a listening ear and a humble heart, our relationship with him deepens. It moves beyond a one-way monologue and becomes a rich, dynamic conversation. We begin to hear his voice more clearly in our daily lives and see his hand at work all around us. We learn that true worship isn't about the volume of our words, but the posture of our hearts. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I hope this has been an encouragement to you. If it has, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more content like this. It really helps us reach more people. May you walk with an awareness of his presence this week. Money, wealth, and the endless pursuit of more. We live in a world that constantly tells us we need a bigger house, a faster car, the latest gadget. But have you ever stopped to wonder if that chase is actually making you happy? There's some ancient wisdom that cuts right through all that noise, and it's surprisingly relevant today. King Solomon, one of the wealthiest men who ever lived, wrote something profound in the Book of Ecclesiastes. He said, "He that loveth silver shall not be satisfied with silver." Think about that. The very act of loving money ensures you'll never feel like you have enough. It's like trying to quench your thirst by drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you get. It's a self-defeating cycle. This isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. It's a reality many people experience. We've all heard stories of lottery winners who end up miserable, or incredibly wealthy people who are plagued by anxiety and emptiness. Solomon observed this firsthand. He wrote about seeing a man who had immense riches but lacked the ability to actually enjoy them. His health failed, his relationships crumbled, or his anxieties were so great that all his wealth just became a source of stress. He said that a stranger ends up consuming it all, meaning the wealth gets passed on or lost. And the person who worked so hard for it never got the real benefit. It's a truly tragic picture, isn't it? All that effort, all that sacrifice, for what? A pile of gold you can't even enjoy. Now, let's contrast this with a different kind of life. Solomon points to the simple worker, the laborer. He says, "The sleep of a laboring man is sweet." Why? Because at the end of the day, that person has done an honest day's work. They've earned their meal. Their mind isn't spinning with stock market fluctuations or fears of losing everything. There's a peace that comes from simple, productive work. But then he says, the abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep. The very thing that's supposed to provide security, extreme wealth, often becomes the source of sleepless nights. The worries are endless. How to protect it, how to grow it, who might be trying to take it. The abundance, instead of bringing rest, brings restlessness. This is where another piece of wisdom from the Book of Proverbs comes in. It says, "Labor not to be rich, cease from thine own wisdom." This sounds completely countercultural, doesn't it? Our whole society is built on the idea of working hard to get rich. But this advice is asking us to pause and question that goal. It's not saying don't work hard. It's saying don't make getting rich the ultimate purpose of your work. It's an invitation to stop relying on our own clever schemes and plans to accumulate wealth. Because, as the next verse in Proverbs says, riches can literally grow wings and fly away like an eagle. Wealth is fleeting, it's uncertain. Building your life on it is like building a house on shifting sand. So if the goal isn't to accumulate endless wealth, what is it? What's the alternative? Solomon, after observing all the vanity and striving in the world, came to a beautiful conclusion. He said he realized it's better to simply eat, drink, and find joy in the work you do. To enjoy the simple pleasures of life. A good meal, a moment of rest, the satisfaction of a task well done. He recognized that this ability to enjoy life right here and now is not something we can earn or buy. He calls it a gift from the hand of God. This shifts our perspective entirely. Joy isn't a destination you reach once you have a certain amount in your bank account. Joy is a gift available to us every single day. It's found in gratitude for what we have, not in anxiety over what we don't. It's in the relationships we build, the moments we share, and the simple beauty of the world around us. Think about it. The taste of your morning coffee, a conversation with a friend, the feeling of the sun on your face. These are the true riches of life. This doesn't mean ambition is bad, or that we should all stop trying to improve our circumstances. The key is the motive behind our labor. Are we working out of a frantic, anxious desire to hoard wealth, or are we working to provide for our needs, contribute to the world, and then taking the time to enjoy the fruits of that labor? It's about finding a healthy balance. It's about understanding that your worth is not tied to your net worth. So, I want to encourage you this week to take a step back from the frantic chase. Look for the simple gifts in your day. Savor your food. Enjoy the company of your loved ones. Find satisfaction in the work you do, whatever it may be. Remember that a peaceful night's sleep is a treasure that no amount of money can buy. The ability to rejoice in your daily life is the ultimate success. This wisdom has stood the test of time for a reason. It reminds us what truly matters and helps us break free from the trap of dissatisfaction. Let's choose contentment over consumption and joy over the endless pursuit of more. Thank you so much for watching and for spending this time with me. If this message resonated with you, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content like this. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. We'll be looking at some powerful words from the Book of Ecclesiastes, along with insights from Job and the Psalms, to help us gain a deeper, more meaningful perspective on our existence. Let's start with a rather striking statement from Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 1. A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. Now that might sound a little strange, even unsettling at first. Isn't birth a joyous occasion, a celebration of new life? And isn't death something we fear and grieve? Absolutely. But the writer here, often believed to be Solomon, is inviting us to look beyond the surface level of things. Think about it. Precious ointment in ancient times was a symbol of luxury, celebration, and honor. It was expensive, fragrant, and used for special occasions. But Solomon says a good name, meaning a person's character, reputation, and legacy, is far more valuable. Ointment is temporary. Its scent fades, it gets used up. But a good name, the impact we have on others through our integrity, kindness, and faithfulness, endures long after we're gone. It's a legacy that can't be bought with money. This brings us to the second part of the verse. The day of death is better than the day of one's birth. This isn't a call to be morbid or to devalue life. Far from it. Instead, it's a profound shift in perspective. On the day of our birth, our story is an unwritten page. Our potential is unknown, our character unformed. It's a day of pure possibility, but the day of our death is the completion of our story. It marks the sum total of all our choices, our loves, our struggles, and our triumphs. If we have lived a life that honors God and serves others, building that good name, then the day of our death becomes the final seal on a life well lived. It's the moment our legacy is finalized. It's the graduation day, not just the first day of school. This perspective helps us focus on what's truly important right now. It asks us, what kind of name are we building today? Are our actions contributing to a legacy of love and integrity, or are they fleeting and self-serving, like a bottle of expensive perfume that eventually runs out? The verse continues to challenge our conventional thinking. Verse 2 says, "It is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for that is the end of all men, and the living will lay it to his heart." Again, this seems counterintuitive. Who would choose a funeral over a party? But the wisdom here is deep. A party, a house of feasting, is about temporary pleasure. It's fun, but it often distracts us from the deeper realities of life. On the other hand, a house of mourning forces us to confront our own mortality. When we stand before a casket, we are reminded that life is finite. This isn't meant to make us despair, but to make us wise. It's in those sober moments of reflection that the living will lay it to his heart. We start to think about our own lives, our priorities, our relationships, and our faith. Are we living for things that will last? Are we prepared to meet our own end? Funerals have a way of cutting through the noise and distractions of daily life, forcing us to ask the big questions. It's a reality check that a party can never provide. This theme of life's brevity is a constant drumbeat throughout Scripture. The psalmist in Psalm 39 verse 4 makes a heartfelt plea. "Lord, make me to know mine end and the measure of my days, what it is, that I may know how frail I am." This isn't a morbid obsession with death. It's a humble request for perspective. The psalmist wants to understand just how short and fragile life is, not to become anxious, but to become wise. When we recognize that our time here is like a fleeting breath, we begin to number our days differently. We stop wasting time on petty arguments, meaningless pursuits, and holding on to bitterness. We start investing our time in what truly matters, our relationship with God and our love for others. Knowing that our days are numbered should motivate us to live each one with purpose and intention. Every day is a gift, an opportunity to build that good name, to love more deeply, to forgive more freely, and to grow closer to our Creator. It helps us to prioritize what is eternal over what is temporary. The book of Job echoes this same reality. In Job chapter 14 verse 5, it says of humanity, "His days are determined, the number of his months is with you. You have appointed his limits so that he cannot pass." This is a profound statement of God's sovereignty. Our lives are not a cosmic accident. The exact length of our life, down to the number of our months, is in God's hands. Now, for some, this idea might feel restrictive, as if we have no control. But for the believer, it should bring immense peace. It means our lives are not at the mercy of random chance or fate. We are held securely in the hands of a loving, all-powerful God who has a plan and a purpose for every single one of our days. We don't have to live in fear of the unknown, wondering when our time will come. We can trust that God holds our beginning, our end, and every moment in between. This frees us to live boldly and without fear. We don't have to anxiously try to prolong our lives through every possible means, nor should we be reckless. Instead, we can focus on living the days we are given to the fullest for God's glory. Whether our lives are long or short by human standards, they are exactly the length God has ordained for His perfect purposes. Our job is not to question the length, but to fill the time we have with faith, hope, and love. So how do we tie all of this together? We have the value of a good name, the sobering wisdom found in mourning, the brevity of life, and the sovereignty of God over our days. It all points to one central truth. We are called to live with an eternal perspective. When we understand that our time is short and our days are in God's hands, we are motivated to build a legacy of character, a good name that will outlast us. We learn to see challenges and difficult times not as random misfortunes, but as opportunities for God to shape us. Ecclesiastes 7 verses 3 and 4 say, "Sorrow is better than laughter, for by a sad countenance the heart is made better. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of feasting." God uses the hard times, the sad countenance, to do a deep work in our hearts, making us better, more compassionate, and more reliant on Him. This perspective equips us to handle both prosperity and adversity with grace. The passage goes on to say in verse 14, "In the day of prosperity be joyful, but in the day of adversity consider, surely God has appointed the one as well as the other, so that man can find out nothing that will come after him." Life is a mix of good times and bad times, and God is sovereign over both. In good times, we should be joyful and thankful, recognizing every blessing as a gift from Him. In hard times, we should pause and consider. Consider what God might be teaching us. Consider our own frailty and our need for Him. We can't predict the future, but we can trust the one who holds the future. This brings us back to the beginning. Why is the day of death better than the day of birth for one who has lived wisely? Because for the believer in Christ, death is not an end, but a glorious beginning. It is the day we finally go home. It is the day we see our Savior face to face. It is the day when the good name we have built on earth is affirmed in heaven. For the Christian, death is the ultimate graduation, the ultimate victory, the transition from this fleeting, fragile life to an eternal one where there is no more sorrow, no more mourning, and no more end to our days. So let's take this wisdom to heart. Let's ask God, like the psalmist, to teach us to number our days so that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Let's focus on building a character of integrity, kindness, and faith, a good name that is more precious than any worldly treasure. And let's live each day with purpose and peace, trusting that our times are in His hands. It's this idea that we can plan everything, work our hardest, be the fastest, the strongest, the smartest, and things still might not go our way. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's a profound truth about life, and it's captured beautifully in some ancient wisdom that I think is more relevant today than ever. There's a line in the Book of Ecclesiastes that says, "The race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong." Think about that for a second. We're constantly told that if you just hustle harder, run faster, and be stronger than the competition, you'll win. But the writer of Ecclesiastes, looking back on a life of observation, says, "Not necessarily." He saw that success isn't always a direct result of being the best on paper. You can have the fastest runner, but they might trip. You can have the mightiest army, but they might fall into an unexpected trap. Why? The verse continues, "Time and chance happeneth to them all." This is the great equalizer. It's that unpredictable element of life that we can't control. It's being in the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the wrong time. It's that lucky break, that unexpected phone call, or that sudden setback that comes out of nowhere. We all love a good underdog story, right? The team that wasn't supposed to win, the business idea that seemed crazy but took off. That's time and chance in action. It's not to say that effort doesn't matter, of course it does. But it's a humbling reminder that our best laid plans are always subject to forces beyond our control. We can't script every moment of our lives. This can feel a little disheartening, can't it? If it's all up to chance, then what's the point of even trying? Well, that's where the next piece of wisdom comes in. The same chapter in Ecclesiastes tells us, "Wisdom is better than strength." And later it adds, "Wisdom is better than weapons of war." So while we can't control time and chance, we can control how we prepare for it and how we react to it. This is the power of wisdom. Wisdom isn't just about book smarts or knowing a lot of facts. It's about understanding how the world works. It's about discernment, good judgment, and foresight. While a strong warrior might charge headfirst into a battle, a wise leader might see a way to avoid the fight altogether or position their troops in a way that uses the terrain to their advantage, turning a potential defeat into a victory. Wisdom is the strategic advantage that doesn't rely on brute force. Think about it in our own lives. You might be the most talented programmer, but wisdom is knowing how to collaborate with a team, how to communicate your ideas effectively, and when to pivot to a new project. You could be the strongest athlete, but wisdom is knowing how to rest and recover to avoid injury, and how to manage your career for the long term. Strength and speed are temporary. They fade with age. But wisdom can grow every single day of your life. It's the asset that appreciates over time. This leads us to a powerful conclusion found in the Book of Proverbs. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. The principal thing, that means it's the most important thing, the foundation upon which everything else should be built. Before you chase after speed, strength, wealth, or fame, chase after wisdom. Make it your primary goal. But how do we get wisdom? It's not like you can just buy it at a store. It comes from experience, both our own and the experiences of others. It comes from listening more than we speak. It comes from reading, from studying, and from seeking out mentors who have walked the path before us. It comes from being humble enough to admit when we're wrong and learn from our mistakes. It's a lifelong pursuit. Every challenge we face, every setback we endure, is an opportunity to gain a little more wisdom if we approach it with the right mindset. The passage in Ecclesiastes has a sobering warning, though. It says, "But one sinner destroyeth much good." This highlights the fragility of wisdom and the destructive power of a single foolish act. Think about a beautifully constructed bridge, a masterpiece of engineering. One person with a demolition charge can destroy in minutes what took years to build. It's the same with our lives, our reputations, our relationships. Years of wise living, of building trust and doing good, can be undone by one reckless decision, one moment of foolishness. This is why pursuing wisdom isn't a one-time event. It's a daily commitment. It's about consistently choosing the wise path over the easy one. It's about thinking through the consequences of our actions and considering our impact on others. A wise person understands that determined choices have ripple effects. They build things that last. A foolish person thinks only of the immediate moment of instant gratification, and in doing so, they often tear things down, including themselves. So let's bring it all together. Life is unpredictable. The race isn't always to the swift, and the battle isn't always to the strong. We can't control time and chance, but we can control our pursuit of wisdom. And since wisdom is the principal thing, it's our best tool for navigating the uncertainties of life. It helps us prepare for the unexpected, make the most of the opportunities that chance throws our way, and recover when things don't go as planned. It's more valuable than raw talent, more powerful than brute strength, and more enduring than any weapon. So my encouragement to you today is this. Don't be discouraged when your hard work doesn't immediately pay off. Don't despair when you see someone less qualified or less dedicated succeed because of a lucky break. Life isn't always fair in that way. Instead, focus on what you can control. Invest in yourself, cultivate wisdom, read, listen, learn and grow. Make it your priority, your principal thing. Because when you have wisdom, you have the ultimate tool to not just survive the time and chance of life, but to truly thrive within it. You'll be building your life on a rock, not on sand. And that is a foundation that can withstand any storm. Thank you so much for joining me for this discussion today. I hope it gave you something valuable to think about. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever said something you immediately wished you could take back? One wrong word, and suddenly a peaceful conversation turns into a battlefield. It's like dropping a single match in a dry forest. That's the power of the tongue. The Bible has a lot to say about this, and it's fascinating how relevant these ancient words are to our modern lives, especially with social media where words fly faster than ever. The Book of James in chapter 3 gives us a powerful image. It says, "Even so the tongue is a little member, and boasteth great things." Think about that. This tiny part of our body holds immense power. James compares it to the small rudder that steers a massive ship, or a tiny spark that can set a whole forest on fire. Our words can build people up, chart a course for success, and create beautiful relationships. Or they can tear everything down, causing destruction that spreads far and wide. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? Every tweet, every comment, every word spoken in a heated moment has the potential to either build or burn. This brings us to the Book of Ecclesiastes, which paints a clear picture of the difference between wise words and foolish words. Chapter 10, verse 12 says, "The words of a wise man's mouth are gracious." Gracious. What does that mean? It means words filled with kindness, favor, and charm. Wise words are like a soothing balm. They bring healing to a tense situation, offer encouragement to a weary soul, and build bridges of understanding between people. A wise person thinks before they speak. They consider the impact of their words. Their goal isn't to win an argument or to show off how clever they are, but to bring grace and peace into the conversation. Their words are a gift to those who hear them. Now let's look at the other side of the coin. The verse continues, "But the lips of a fool will swallow him up." This is a powerful and almost frightening image. A fool's own words become a trap that consumes them. Have you ever seen this happen? Someone just can't stop talking. They blurt out opinions without thinking, spread gossip, make boastful claims, and just keep digging a deeper and deeper hole for themselves. Ecclesiastes goes on to say, "The beginning of the words of his mouth is foolishness, and the end of his talk is mischievous madness. A fool also is full of words." A fool is full of words. They talk, and the more they talk, the more foolish they sound. Their conversation starts with nonsense and ends in chaos. They don't know when to be quiet. Their need to be heard, to be right, to be the center of attention, ultimately leads to their own downfall. Their words don't build bridges, they burn them. And in the end, they are the first ones to get burned. They get swallowed up by the consequences of their own speech. Lost friendships, ruined reputations, missed opportunities. It's a self-inflicted wound caused entirely by an untamed tongue. So we have this stark contrast: the gracious words of the wise that bring life, and the consuming words of the fool that bring destruction. This isn't just about being nice. It's about being effective, being constructive, and being a force for good in the world. The power to choose between these two paths lies with each of us every single time we open our mouths or type a message. Reflecting on this, I've come to a personal conclusion, a sort of mantra for myself. It's simple. Let my words be few and seasoned with grace. Let my words be few. This doesn't mean we should live in silence. It means we should value silence. It means we should listen more than we speak. It means choosing our words carefully, recognizing that not every thought needs to be voiced. Sometimes, the wisest thing to say is nothing at all. In a world that is so noisy, where everyone is shouting to be heard, choosing to speak less but with more meaning is a radical act of wisdom. And the second part, seasoned with grace. This comes from Colossians 4:6, which says, "Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt." Think about what salt does to food. It enhances flavor, it preserves, and a little goes a long way. Our words should be like that. They should enhance a conversation, not overpower it. They should be constructive, preserving relationships and building people up. They should add value. Gracious words are thoughtful, empathetic, and kind. They seek to understand before seeking to be understood. So how do we put this into practice? It starts with a pause. Before you speak, before you post, before you hit send, just pause. Ask yourself, are these words gracious? Are they necessary? Are they helpful? Will they build up or tear down? This simple habit of pausing can be revolutionary. It can save you from so much regret and protect your relationships. Think about your daily interactions at work, with your family, online. Where can you choose to speak fewer words? Where can you inject more grace into your conversations? Maybe it's holding back a critical comment and offering a word of encouragement instead. Maybe it's choosing to listen fully to someone without planning your rebuttal. Maybe it's just letting a provocative social media post go by without adding your own fiery opinion. The tongue is small, but its impact is massive. It can be a source of great good or a weapon of great destruction. The wise person understands this power and wields it with care, with grace, and with intention. The fool, on the other hand, is careless and is ultimately consumed by their own words. Let's all strive to be people whose words are a gift. Let's choose wisdom over foolishness. Let's make our conversations, both online and offline, places of grace and understanding. Let's learn the power of the pause. Let our words be few, and let them be seasoned with grace, because in the end, the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more wisdom, more kindness, and more grace. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this message resonated with you, please give this video a thumbs up, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. How do you practice using your words wisely? And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next conversation. Until next time, speak with grace.